Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week.
Preghiamo.
But for the first time in 26 years,
Che hai dato come modello agli uomini.
the Pope did not lead Mass. He would miss most of Holy Week.
Et dimitte nobis de vita nostra.
Instead, he watched it all on Vatican TV. At a time when Christians around the world were commemorating Jesus' last hours, the Pope's absence was symbolic. Then, on Easter Sunday, the 84-year-old pontiff made his way to the window above St. Peter's Square, wanting desperately to see and speak to his flock, who wanted desperately to hear their Pope. But the words would not come out. The microphone pushed away, the Pope's frustration evident. His close friend, Archbishop Dziwisz, was by his side. In his book, Let Me Go to the House of the Father, Dziwisz writes, after John Paul returned from the window, he said, "It might be better that I die if I cannot complete the mission entrusted to me."
There was a lovely kind of poetic arc to all of this, because if you think back to October 16th, 1978,
Cardinale Wojtyła.
when Karol Wojtyła of Krakow was elected as John Paul II, when he came out onto that central loggia of St. Peter's Square
Con aiuto di Dio.
and gave the blessing and then started to improvise. And if you remember, the papal master of ceremonies actually reached for the Pope to pull him away as if to say, "Holy Father, this isn't how it's done." And Wojtyła slapped his hand away, said, from that moment, it was clear, I'm going to be Pope my way. And there at the very end, that Easter Sunday when the Pope was there at the window for that agonizing 12-minute period, trying to speak and just being utterly unable to do so. And at two different moments, his aides actually tried to roll him away from the window, and once again, he slapped their hands away as if to say, here at the very end, I'm still doing this my way. I think there was something marvelously appropriate about that.
To me, his voice was a priceless gift.
As young adults, actress Danuta Michalowska and Karol Wojtyła were in the same theater group in Krakow. It was his voice that first caught her attention.
Czym się wyróżniał, czym się do końca życia wyróżniał, że był.
He stood out then in the same way he stood out throughout his life. He was such an extraordinary person. There was something so radiant about him, and you couldn't help but notice him.
A mógł być.
He could have been a great actor, perhaps one of the greatest in the world, because he was such a talent.
For decades, they would exchange letters, more than 100, the last one just 2 weeks before his death. A letter never intended to be shared with the public, but now Danuta Michalowska feels compelled to do just that. The Pope's signature noticeably unsteady, but the handwritten words still legible, with heartfelt wishes. For Danuta, the letters are a treasure, a comfort. Memories of a dying friend whose suffering would soon end.
The body is our dress, and when it starts to tear, when it no longer gives us any warmth, shedding it is a wonderful moment.
To jest moment wspaniały.
Three days after Easter, the Pope tried to speak to the masses once more.
We even tested it beforehand.
Archbishop Dziwisz remembers the Pope's rehearsal and his frustration after his second failed attempt.
I wouldn't have given him the microphone if I didn't think he could speak. But maybe it was the emotion of the moment, or God just wanted it that way. When he gave the sign of the cross, It was very moving. And then, nothing.
This would be the last time the world would see John Paul.
Through his inevitable suffering, through his last moments here. But he was teaching something very important. This Pope who had teach many people around the world how to live was also teaching in those moments how a person can die.
The next day, Thursday, Pope John Paul II fell ill one last time.
He was dressed for Mass, but all of a sudden, at the beginning, he started to shiver. I understood immediately after Mass that he had a severe infection. And then one thing led to another, and his condition got worse.
His temperature shot up to 104 degrees. Doctors inside the Vatican said there was nothing more they could do. The Pope was asked if he wanted to return to the hospital. He answered the question with a question.
Is there anything in the hospital that can do to me that you cannot perform here? The answer was no, Holy Father. We have everything here. There were different doctors and so on, and he decided to remain in his apartment.
Certainly the fact that all of his appointments were canceled, and then it was announced that he was under medical care in the papal apartments and that no other hospitalization was envisioned. I think that certainly set off alarm bells.
John Paul II was given last rites. His closest friends would be summoned to his bedside. When we come back, the untold story of their final goodbyes.